So go ahead and accept that. Beautiful. All right. We are getting ready to start. Got 2 new coming in. All right. Amazing. Good morning or afternoon or whatever time of day it is where you're at. Really, really hyped to be here with you. I'm Marshall. If you don't know me already, I run sales teams for solar. I do coaching. And Jacob is one of our team leaders out in Florida on the solar side. So the thing is I want to make it really, really clear what this is not. This is not a recruiting call. It's also not just some kind of like woo-woo seminar. We're just going to talk about some real applicable, practical things that specifically Jacob, as an example, has learned to apply in his life and in his business. And then I'll come and talk a little bit about what I have seen, why I am in sales, and why door-to-door specifically is such a stellar way to introduce yourself to the world of personal development and growth. And we do have what's called a blitz coming up at the beginning of this next month, more like middle, 13th through the 21st of April. And it's where we live and work together in an Airbnb for 8 to 10 days. This will actually be, looks like it's 9 days. And that's going to be a really good way to temporarily, or if you want to more on the long term, apply some of the things we talk about here today, which is how do you actually grow personally as a human being, and how does sales actually contribute to that? How does it play a role in that? And so as we jump in here, if you have any questions, keep them for the end, just so that we can go over those later. But I'm really glad to have all of you in here. I was only able to have a few of you introduce yourself. So if you didn't get to introduce yourself, no worries. Hopefully we will meet again. So I'm just going to start off here by actually tossing it over to Jacob. I'm giving a quick recap on how Jacob and I met. Jacob and I just met through the solar industry online. We had been talking about what solar looks like selling in California versus Virginia, Florida, all these different markets that exist. And Jacob and I got to talking just about business, and we connected really well on a lot of our values and how we see growth in our lives. And that's why we work together now. So I'm really glad to have you here, Jacob. Start us off here with what we've been talking about over the last several weeks and months, and kind of how it's helped you grow. Tell us about it.
Yep. So when I first came down to Florida, it was a new market. I was definitely struggling. And something that me and Marshall definitely talked about is it's like if you have a goal or you have something you're trying to achieve, uh, if you could achieve it with the person you are today, you would have already done it, right? So what that means is you're going to have to become more in order to achieve more. You're going to have to work on certain areas and certain things about yourself and in your life in order to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And when I first came down here, I was like struggling probably more than I ever have at any point in my life. The first week I got down to Florida, my car broke down, my only form of transportation. Uh, I was extremely low on money. I had all of these like negative thoughts going through my head. Oh my gosh, this is wrong. That's wrong. I can't drive to my appointments. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I was just focusing on everything that was going wrong instead of focusing on everything I could control. Right. And then a friend of mine sent me over a spreadsheet and he said, hey, I'd recommend you start stacking your traps, stacking your stat or tracking your stats. So I opened up this spreadsheet, and before I've been in solar for 3 years, but I never tracked anything, right? I never went into like how many doors I knocked, appointments set, all of that stuff. And the fun thing about tracking is it shows you where your problems are at, right? Like if you have a goal to achieve X goal, but you know that you need to do like A, B, C, D to get to X, then it's important to focus on all the things you need to do. And then that goal will just automatically be achieved, right? So I started tracking my stats to like doors knocked, appointments set, appointments that would sit, and then sales that were made. And because I had all these numbers sitting in front of me, the numbers started painting a picture as to where the problems were. Like if I was knocking a bunch of doors, I knew that my pitch wasn't as good as it needed to be. If I set a bunch of appointments, I knew that, my if they weren't sitting, my quality of appointments weren't where they needed to be. All of these things. Uh, but I started dialing in on tracking, right? Like I made it extremely important to track all of my stats. And then that literally just started. Could you, perfect. So I started tracking all of these stats, and then all of a sudden, the results just became automatic, right? Like I started to like just become devoted to actually making this the most important thing to me. And then I started tracking everything, and then I got where I needed to be. And now I'm at a point where when I first got down here, I was extremely stressed. I didn't know like how I was going to make the money I needed to make. I didn't have a car. I had all of these things going wrong. I had bills that I had to pay. And just by actually like being devoted to tracking everything that I needed to track, it helped me fix all the problems that I needed to fix because I could see them in the numbers. Uh, and now I'm at a point where I'm consistently putting up deals every week, consistently having 40, 50,000 dollar months. And it's like, it's actually crazy to think that the only thing that I had to actually do was get serious with myself, realize that the reason why I wasn't where I wanted to be is because I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do. And once I took that accountability and I started holding myself accountable, not for anyone else, not to prove anything to my team, not to prove anything to anyone except me, because the problems were with me. And then I started actually working on those problems within myself. And then everything just started to excel. Uh, so that's like, just to make it a long story short, what I had to do is I had to look into myself and realize that the reason I'm at where I'm at in my life right now is because the decisions that I'm making. And if I want my life to get better, I'm going to have to get serious and make them better by taking actions that I wasn't taking previously. And by taking those actions, it's enabled me to put myself in a position that now I don't have to worry about X, Y, Z. I don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, I don't have transportation. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? Now I have a format that I know I can actually follow and it actually works. And it just makes me think that there's people that are out here that were in my same situation, maybe a little better, maybe even worse, that are struggling with the same things. And I just want to be able to show people like, look, I was in your same shoes. I'm actually qualified to say so. And I did X, Y, and Z, and it helped me get where I'm at in my life now. And that just excites me because I know that there's other people out there that are battling the same things that I was battling, that I have something that I can share with them that they can actually implement and get similar results to what I was getting. So that's pretty much like from where I was at to where I'm currently at now. And it just excites me to actually share that with people because when I think about where I was at 2.5 months ago to where I'm at today, it's like it's inspiring. It inspires myself. It motivates myself. And now I don't have to think like, oh, is next week going to be as good as this week, or is this going to be like that? Because I know if I keep doing the same thing, I'll keep getting the same results. And before I was doing the same thing, I kept getting the same results. They weren't results I wanted. Now I have something that's getting me the results I want. And the key thing to take from this is just focus on the actions and not on the result. If you keep taking the actions that you need to take to get you where you want to be, where you want to be will be automatic. Don't focus on the thing that you want, focus on the things you need to do. And the things you need to do will get you what you want regardless. So
That's huge. Thank you for sharing that, Jacob. Let's talk about this. Like, think about this, guys. When we have results in our life that we don't want and we want to change, the momentum it takes and the energy to build the momentum to change can be, it seems like it's hard to access, but it's actually really not that difficult to access. It's just, how are you actually going to use the information? When you recognize that your life isn't where you want it to be, if your sales aren't where you want them to be, literally anything. Maybe your sales and your business are on point right now, but your relationships aren't, or your fitness is not, your health is not, right? We've got to pay very close attention to what it is in our life that does not fit with the vision that we have for our happiness. Like, what does it look like for me to feel really good about my life and my business and my health right now? And why am I there or why am I not there? So what this is, and I really appreciate you sharing it, Jacob, is it's just simply awareness. It's becoming aware, fully aware of how you're spending your time, of how you're spending your energy.
Mhm.
And if those line up with the results you're expecting and with what you want to see in your life. And sales is the best way to practically apply principles of discipline, personal growth, and goal setting and achievement. In fact, you could take those same principles that Jacob's talking about, right? Which is looking at, hey, where am I now and where do I want to be? What's the difference? And then making changes to get there, right? You can apply that through all of life. And what happens is most of us actually struggle to find a true opportunity to really apply that on a smaller scale. Because, I mean, let's face it, you can't get better in every way at life all the time, every single day for the rest of your life. You're going to have ups and downs. But you do have to have some examples to prove to yourself, to show yourself undeniable proof in your mind that you do have what it takes to see something in your life that you want to go out and get and that you want to achieve or that you want to change, and to be able to take the small steps to get there. And sales, specifically direct sales, 1099 full commission sales, is the best way to do that and to start introducing that into your life. So, it's this process, right, Jacob? You'd agree that it's a process.
Yep. It's definitely a process.
Yeah. And it doesn't just end, right? Like, you're applying this in one area of your life and you want to apply it to other areas of your life. Is that right?
Of course.
Yeah. So that's what this whole thing is about. And that's why we invite people to participate and to learn from things like a blitz, or to learn from things just like, hey, what does it feel like to go out and knock a door, to really sell something you believe in, right? And to do that with a team and with people who care about you. It takes a lot of work to be a part of something like that. And that's the whole point. So the next thing I want to jump into here is what type of training you get when you get involved in a really good team and in really good sales environment. So if you go to any leader, sales leader, business leader, anywhere, and if I were to ask them, actually, I'll ask you, Jacob. If we're talking about achieving success in sales, in terms of percentage, how much of that success is due to skill versus mindset? How much percentage for skill and how much percentage for mindset?
I would say, no lie, it's probably 90 to 95% mindset. Um, you could have the most skilled person in the world, but if they're negative, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But then the rest of it would be skill set, right?
The rest of it would be skill set.
It's
Correct.
so interesting, because if I guarantee you, and I've done this, I've made this mistake. This is why I'm changing it from now on. And this is why we're doing this. And there's multiple people in this call who've been on sales blitzes and other things like that. If you go into a sales team and you look at how much time is spent training skill set versus mindset, it's actually the reverse of what Jacob just said. It's 80 to 90% skill set. Memorize your pitch, practice it, practice it. This is what you do. This is how you say it. This is what you do. Boom, boom, boom. And then the other, 5-10% is mindset. Every once in a while, we'll toss in a little like, hey, this is how you think positively when somebody says something mean to you when you're knocking a door. Or this is how you think, this is how you move on to the next door, without it letting it get to you and without letting it bring down your energy, right? So we continuously see this over and over. And again, I've done the same thing. If it's 80% mindset and 20% skill set, why are we spending 80% of our time training skill set and 20% of our time training mindset? The goal here is to switch those. Skill set's key. If you're going to come and be part of a blitz, if you're going to come and be part of a team, sales team, you got to know your script. You got to know how to talk about the product. You got to know how to explain it. You got to know how to bring people through to an appointment, things like that. But far more important is you got to learn how to be yourself in a high pressure environment, be confident, be clear, be happy, and to bring energy into that interaction. Because if you don't, you're going to fail. And that's where most people fail. And in the past, this is where I've failed even as a leader, which is not training and growing the actual mindset capability of the team and of these individuals so that you can go out and you can actually enjoy what you're doing. Believe it or not, you can enjoy knocking doors and getting rejected on purpose. Why would you go? I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years, right? Why would I do it for 5 years if I didn't enjoy it? I do enjoy it. And there's ways to do it. And it's all about personal growth. So when we come and we do this blitz, for example, that's coming up in this next month, the 13th through the 21st, what you'll actually see, or an example of what you might see if you were part of something like that, is being able to get tools for self-accountability and tools to create emotions that improve the quality of your life, that improve the quality of your sales, and that improve your actual ability to go out and to take action towards the things that you want. Because without this is actually a Tony Robbins concept. The quality of our lives is determined by the quality of our emotions. And when you're out knocking doors, when you're out doing direct sales and you're struggling with money in your bank account, right? You have some manager, I don't want that thumbs up here. You have a manager or something behind your back making you feel bad about your production, right? You have stress throughout the day. Somebody said something mean to you and you can't move on from it, right? Those are the kinds of things that we have to manage. And it just so happens that if you manage those emotions and how you feel about yourself and the world correctly, then the skills just come naturally. You end up having conversations with people. Go ahead, Jacob. What do you think of that?
I want to touch on this subject. So there's 2 books that I read while I was going through like this slump, valley of despair, you could call it. And there's 2 very extremely valuable points I want to make to what you're talking about. So in No Matter What by Michael O'Donnell, he talks about go for no, meaning like every door you knock, every person that tells you no gets you closer to the yes. And he explains that the reason you get paid so much in solar is not because that sale you made, but because of how many times you had to get told no in order to get to that person's door that says yes. So number one, that's something that I shifted in my mind on the doors. So when someone told me no, I was like, hell yeah, I'm about to go get to the next person. Which before, if people were telling me no all day, I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad turf, this, and that. And then the next thing I learned from Think and Grow Rich is there's this chapter, I believe it's chapter 3, where he talks about this like little girl. She's like a daughter of a slave, so the little girl's a slave too, and she asked the slave owner for 15 cents for her mother, and he's like, "Get out of here! I'm not giving you any money." And she's like, "No, my mother needs 15 cents." And he's like, "Get out of here." He walks towards her and he picks up like a barrel stave and he's about to kill her. And she screams, "My mommy needs that 15 cents." And then he puts the thing down and he gives her 15 cents. And the thing about this book is it teaches you, like, if you are so persistent and you do not give up on what you want, like this little girl, she literally mastered her master, right? And I think the same way on the doors. My job starts when they say no. The second they say, "Oh, I'm not interested," that's actually when my job starts, not when I knocked on the door. So the second that, someone tells you no, that's when your job starts in order to get to that yes. Um, and the reason I'm bringing this up is it works the same way in all areas of your life. I have never seen someone who was extremely dedicated to what they were trying to achieve. They worked towards it every single day and never gave up not achieving like ever. And it's the same thing with whatever goal you're working towards. So I think back to both of those books. Your job starts when that person says no, go for no, because then it enables you to keep a positive mindset. And then, your job starts when that person says no. And I have this thing where it's like, I'm not giving up unless they give up and close the door. If they're still talking to me, that I still have an opportunity, right? And it's the same thing with any goal that you have in your life. Unless like any chance that you have, like it's just absolutely gone, you still have a chance. And the only way that you don't have a chance is if you give up.
Mm.
So it's like you're always going to have opportunity to win if you're always trying. The second you stop trying is the second you lose. Like you can literally get whatever you want if you stay positive and you continue to persist. Whatever you want, literally. Like life just has a funny way of giving whatever someone wants to that person who doesn't give up, like,
Yeah.
and who's positive while they're striving. So
Great way to apply it to the rest of life. And that's the biggest thing about this, everybody here. Sales is not really, if it's just your career, you'll be miserable and low energy and really, really have a tough time. That's why direct sales, full commission sales, door to door, cold calling, right? These types of positions make you better in your entire life. Because if you can't show up well for yourself on a day-to-day basis, your sales and your business in terms of your actual work and sales is going to suffer. But if you can show up for yourself and you can learn how to change your mentality around, hey, an obstacle is just an obstacle. I can get around it. I can find a solution. I can become resourceful. Then your sales and your business is going to thrive. And so for a long time, our industry and just sales in general, the industry gets made fun of, and we make fun of ourselves for having tired, burnt out, struggling people.
yeah.
And only the people at the very tip top, they make their money, they get their Lambos, get all this recognition, all the fancy stuff, and then everybody else is down at the bottom. That's a reality. And I don't believe that that's how this has to be. I really don't. I believe that there can be wins and growth for everybody who fully applies themselves, because life looks like door-to-door sales. It just does. You're going to go out, you're going to want to achieve what you're going to want to achieve, and you're going to have to push over and over and over again and know yourself and know why you're there for the rest of your life. So if you're going to do that, you might as well make it your career and make great money doing it, right? That's my
Yep.
philosophy. And that's what I really, really love sharing about sales with people, and sharing with you guys here, is that if you want to have a better life, then this is a fantastic, one of the best ways to start applying those principles in your life in a micro way and seeing, hey, these principles work. When I'm persistent, I can actually grow. When I push myself, I get better, right? When I take time outside of just the job to improve myself, then I actually make more money instead of less. And
And
so it's a beautiful thing to see. And that's what the purpose of this is. So this blitz that we're doing coming up is going to have, for the first 4 days, mindset and in full engagement mindset energy training to prepare you to go out and to take the skills that you're learning, the script, and to be able to effectively go out and implement that in your sales and in your life. And
yep.
it's crazy what 9 days will do for you when you can just commit. And I'm really excited to share that with everybody who's going to be there. We already have quite a few people, but we're going to have at least 5 more. So if you want to be a part of that, you'll have to message Jacob or myself after the call, because you've been invited, and tell us if you're interested in being a part of that. And it's not going to be the only one we do. We're going to continue to do more, but wanted to make sure that everybody here had some really good examples of how growth is just so real and so obtainable in sales. Jacob.
And yeah, something I want to add really quick. So when I was growing up, I had a father who would work like consistently. He always said he loved what he did. The reason I'm bringing this up now is I realized that the reason he worked how he did and he did so good in his business is because every second that he was working, he was actually giving his family what they desired, right? So his work wasn't even like something that he did just to pay the bills. It was like every second he was working, he was achieving his goals. And his goals was to have a happy family. So it's like, it was so funny to me because I'm thinking about this now as an adult in my life and my business, where I'm like, I'm not just out here selling solar to try and make money and just go pay the bills. Every second that I'm out here and I'm working, I'm actually getting closer to being able to do things for my family, for myself, for the family I want to have in the future, investments, all of these things. So it's not even like I'm working. So I know that every time I'm working, I'm actually dreaming, right? I'm bringing my dreams to life. So it's like when I'm working, I'm dreaming.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's such an interesting thing because it's like so many people, they don't, their work isn't a dream. They just do their work to do their work, clock in, clock out. When I'm working, I'm actually dreaming. And then when I'm not working, I'm working on myself. I'm working with like building relationships. I'm working with my family. So it's like you're always dreaming if everything you do is towards a purpose in your life, right? The food you have is towards the purpose you want to have with your health. The relationships you have is, do you have these relationships for a purpose? You actually have meaning behind everything you do. And if you do that, it's like you're constantly living the dream. And that's such an interesting thing. And it's not hard to be positive when you're constantly living the dream, right? And then you have
And
to tell yourself when something bad happens, adversity comes, hey, you're living the dream. If you weren't living the dream, these problems wouldn't be happening, right?
yes,
So it's like,
so good to be able to recognize that obstacles in your way and hardships are literally part of it. Like you
like
have to. You have to accept that. When you accept it and you stop resisting it, that's when things start to happen for you.
exactly like when I started closing a consistent amount of deals, like I actually started getting volume, there was more problems that came up, right? Like project management, there were things I had to do with title verification, all these things. And for a second, just for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. And then I thought, like, wait, a couple months ago you had none of these problems because you had no deals and you had no money. What do you mean? These are problems that come with success, right? So it's like when you start to look at it like that, regardless in life, you're going to have problems. But like that's never going to stop. But you're going to have problems that are going to aid towards your success. And then you're going to have problems that are just out of your control. But regardless, I'd rather have the problems that come with my success instead
Yep.
of the problems that just come with failure. Right.
More money, more problems.
More money, more
It's
problems,
a
simply
true
put.
thing. It actually happens that way. And when you recognize that problems are opportunities, it's such a mind-opening, mind-blowing recognition
Right.
that problems actually they aren't really in your way. They're there to help you get better and build a skill of overcoming the obstacle, overcoming the problem, becoming better.
And
And that's
and
why this direct sales journey is so important for everybody who comes to be a part of it, and that it's done correctly, and that we spend this time on training your mindset, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the world. And that's what we're really going to be focusing on as we go forward into this next blitz and into the next blitzes that we do after that.
right. Right. And something I've learned about the problems that I've had in terms of like project management is it has enabled me to learn so much about the industry, so much about what goes on the back end, where I feel like a true professional now. I know when I put a deal through what's actually going on back there in every single area. As like a couple months ago, I had none of this knowledge. I had none of this information. And because I have all this knowledge, now when I'm speaking to someone, I feel so much more confident in what I'm saying because I know everything that happens through the when that project is submitted to the point those panels go on the roof. And I look at it like the same thing when something happens in my life. Instead of just going, oh, woe is me, figure out how to fix the problem and then you'll feel like a true professional about yourself, right? And
Yep.
that's a really interesting feeling.
Important, bro. Great observation. I appreciate you sharing that.
Of course.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording here.